So, picture this. You've got this teacher. He's sitting in a boat just off the shore, and he's speaking to this huge crowd of people gathered by the lake. But here's the thing. Instead of giving a straight-up lecture, he starts telling them these strange stories, almost like riddles. These are the parables of Jesus, and today we're going to decode them.
And that right there, that's the central question. Why stories? It seems like a weird way to teach, right? But it's actually a very intentional method, designed to do something really specific. To figure it out, we have to put ourselves in the crowd and start with the very first story he tells.
All right, so the first parable is about a farmer. It's a smart place to start because everyone in the crowd would have instantly gotten the imagery. It's a simple story about planting seeds, 4 different kinds of ground, and 4 totally different results.
See? It starts out super simple. A farmer walking his field, scattering seed. It's an everyday, familiar picture. It's meant to draw you in. But then, the story starts to get complicated.
The first outcome is a complete failure. I mean, the seed doesn't even stand a chance. It lands on this hard-packed dirt path. It's just sitting there, totally exposed, and poof, the birds snatch it away. It's gone before it can do anything.
Now, the second batch of seed, it actually sprouts. For a minute there, you think, okay, here we go. You get this little flash of green. But the growth is all on the surface. The second things get a little tough. The sun beats down, it just can't handle it. There's no depth, no root system to keep it alive. The third seed does even better. It grows, it's got roots, it looks like it's going to make it. But it's not alone. It's surrounded by all these weeds, and pretty soon the thorns just completely take over. They choke out all the light and nutrients, and the plant ends up producing nothing.
And then, finally, we get to the good stuff. This last batch of seed lands in good, fertile soil. And it doesn't just grow, it absolutely explodes. It produces this incredible, massive harvest, way more than what was originally planted.
And that's it. The story just stops. No explanation, no neat little moral, just this really cryptic instruction to listen better. The crowd has just left there, probably scratching their heads. Even his own disciples are totally confused. They know it's important, but they have no idea what it actually means.
Okay, so this is where it all starts to click. Because now, away from the crowds, the disciples go up to Jesus and ask him the exact same question we started with. And his answer? It's like the Rosetta Stone for understanding all the other parables. This question is the turning point. We're moving from a public story to a private lesson. This is the moment where the teacher finally pulls back the curtain and shows you the secret to his whole method. And the answer is just fascinating. He says the parables are basically a filter. If you're genuinely curious, if you're open to the message, the stories become a doorway to a much deeper truth. But if your heart is closed off, the stories just stay stories. They actually conceal the very meaning they're meant to reveal.
So now that they get the why, Jesus explains the what. He finally decodes that first story for them, and he reveals that it was never really about farming in the first place. It was about listening.
So here it is, the code. The seed is the message of the kingdom. And the different soils, well, they represent the different ways people respond to that message. Some people hear it, but it just doesn't sink in at all. Others have this big emotional reaction, but it fades fast. Some get it, but they let the worries of life crowd it out. But some people, they truly hear it, they let it take root, and it completely transforms their lives.
Okay, so once you have this key, this idea that the kingdom is being described through these everyday metaphors, the other parables start unlocking one after another. And Jesus just launches into a whole series of them, each one showing us a different angle of what this kingdom is all about. First up, he uses the image of a mustard seed. You know, it's one of the tiniest seeds out there. It looks completely insignificant, but inside that tiny shell is the potential for massive, world-changing growth. The point is pretty clear. This kingdom might look small and powerless right now, but it's going to grow into something huge, something that offers shelter to everyone. The next parable tackles a really tough, real-world question. Why does it seem like evil is allowed to thrive right alongside good? The story says that, for now, they grow together. It's a messy world, not a perfect one. But there is a final sorting coming. It's just not going to happen until the very end.
Then he tells these 2 super short stories, almost like a 1-2 punch, to make a single, crucial point about value. One guy stumbles on a treasure buried in a field. Another guy, a merchant, finds the one perfect pearl he's been looking for his whole life. And in both cases, their reaction is exactly the same, pure joy, and then they immediately sell everything they own to get it.
The kingdom, he's saying, is worth more than everything else you have combined.
And this story about a fisherman's net, it really echoes that earlier parable about the weeds. The idea is that the net is cast out wide, and it just hauls in everything. Good fish, bad fish, the whole lot. The sorting doesn't happen out in the ocean. It happens on the beach at the end of the day. It's another picture of this present reality being a big mix, with a final decisive separation coming later.
So after this whole string of metaphors, the story takes a sharp turn. We move from the theoretical to the practical. We go from a story about different types of soil to a real-life demonstration. And the abstract lesson is about to get very, very real.
Jesus goes back to his hometown. He walks into the local synagogue and starts teaching. And at first, the people are blown away. They're amazed by his wisdom. But that amazement very quickly sours into doubt, and then into actual offense.
So what was their problem? It was that he was too familiar. They couldn't get past the fact that this was the local carpenter's kid, the boy they watched grow up. They were so hung up on his ordinary background that they were completely blind to the extraordinary message he was bringing.
And this is the real kicker. Their reception of the message, their inability to believe, had a direct and tangible consequence. Their lack of faith literally limited what could happen there. They became a living, breathing example of the bad soil from the very first story.
And his final comment just drives the whole point home. The very people who should have recognized him the most were the least able to receive his message. They were the hard path. They were the rocky ground. They were the thorny soil. The seed was perfectly fine, but the ground just wasn't ready.
Which leaves us with a pretty powerful final thought. These parables seem to be saying that understanding isn't something that just happens to you. This entire chapter, from the sower all the way to the rejection in his hometown, it all points to one thing. The condition of the listener, the soil, is every bit as important as the message of the speaker. The responsibility for actually hearing, well, it seems that's on us.